This has become a Bat. You're listening to a special Bat Chat episode. Today we're going to talk about Batman, the animated series. I'm your host, Tom.
And I'm Mike.
And joining us today is our good friend, Justin. Introduce yourself.
Justin.
Welcome, Justin.
All right. Thanks for joining us, Justin. All right. So I'm sure everybody here has heard of Batman, the animated series.
Hopefully.
What more is there to say?
We're not going to cover every little detail of the cartoon.
Yeah. It's just more about like our experience with the Batman, the animated series, and talking about everything we love about it. And we're going to end it with like our top 3 favorite episodes.
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the animated series. It's probably my favorite rendition of Batman, so I'm glad to be here.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thanks for joining us.
I think it probably is the definitive version of Batman for most people.
I think for our generation especially.
Yeah.
Like it just hit at just that exact perfect moment. And the way it they had the spin-offs and creating its own universe really cemented it for us.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I got a couple bullet points here. We can just go down the list here and talk about each of these things in some slight detail, and then we'll get into what our favorite episodes are.
Yeah.
I'm just going to list them real quick so people know what's in store, and then we can go down the list. So,
well, real quick, before we get taken off here,
I
have something for you guys. So, hey,
this is a surprise.
Surprises.
Surprises.
You didn't have to do this.
And you can edit this out if you don't want to.
Oh, okay.
It's more for Mike's birthday, but it's really not. It's more for the podcast.
This is going to make so much noise. I'm about to open this
All right.
on the microphone.
He gave us a gift wrapped present.
Damn. Oh, it's really loud. What is this? It's Batman related. Yeah. Is it not in your favor?
Oh, that is awesome.
It's a Batman Lego head.
It's the cowl.
Yeah, it's the cowl. My bad. It's Batman's cowl, completely done out of Legos. Yeah, we'll definitely have to put that together.
Yeah, we'll post that
Thank you,
on
Justin.
Twitter.
And then a Batman comic book, Batman number 451, from my favorite Batman artist, Jim Aparo.
Oh, that is beautiful.
Yeah, that's out of all my classic Batman comics that I've had ever since I was a kid. That one probably has my favorite cover. So it's going to you guys. Put it in the room or keep it or read it or whatever.
It's a good one because not only is it written by Mark Wolfman, who's one of the best Batman writers, it's drawn by Jim Aparo, and the cover is by Norm Brayfogle. So you get 3 awesome Batman creators.
That is a sweet cover.
Yeah.
And it's very reminiscent to like how Joker appeared in like the original Batman series, like with his hat and everything. I love it.
Yeah, even like the Tommy gun. They definitely have the scene with the hat with the trench coat and the Tommy gun. Super cool. Thank you, Justin.
So there you go. There you go, guys. It's a little gift from me to you for letting me on
this can go
show.
Right on the counter when we're done building it.
Hell yeah.
Right there.
All right. So what's the first bullet point we got here?
Okay, so I'm just going to quick go through the bullet points, and then we'll start from the top and work our way through. So first, it would be voice cast, because we've got a lot of good voice actors on this show.
Yeah.
The score, art by Bruce Timm, writing, Paul Dini. And he's not the only writer on the show, but he's the childhood memories of the show. So like watching it after school, toys, video games, movies, etc. Portrayals of the characters in the show versus what you know of them from the comic books. How the show sets a high bar for animation after the show had come out, starting its an entire own animated universe, favorite villains, and then finally favorite episodes.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's start with that first bullet point,
which would be voice cast.
Voice cast.
Mm-hmm.
So Batman was voiced by Kevin Conroy, who, let's see what he was in before.
I'm sure he was in things before.
Yeah.
He, to me, like, I know there's been other actors who played Batman and stuff, but when I read the comic books, I always hear Kevin Conroy's voice coming out of Batman. Always.
Mm-hmm. So I was doing a little bit of research on, or not research, but watching some interviews with Kevin Conroy in them prior to this, just to get more of a feel. Because I mean, I love his voice. I'll just start with that. Like, I love his voice. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
It's not too Dudley Do-Right, too like, hey, stop, citizen. But it's also not too Christian Bale-y versus Clint Eastwood.
It has the perfect medium. And
nice medium.
He definitely does have a difference between his Bruce Wayne and his Batman. It's very subtle, but it's different.
Yeah, I do like that too. I put a point on here to he does differentiate from Bruce Wayne to Batman, which it's great.
I think the best thing about it, he really humanized Batman's voice. That's like the biggest strength to it, was that like before that, I mean, we had Michael Keaton and Adam West and whoever was voicing him in Super Friends before Adam West. But before that, we really didn't get this like super like very just humanized addition to Batman. Like he brought a warmth to it that you didn't get before.
I think he just made Batman a real person in general. Like you're saying
Yeah.
about the human element. I agree because that's what I love about the comic books. Like when I read it, Batman feels like a real person. You know, 'cause
Yeah.
he's got a heart. He has a conscience. You know, he's out fighting crime, but he feels bad about things too. You know,
hmm
he's not such a black and white character. In the movies, he feels a little black and white, even with the tragic backstory.
Yeah.
But in the cartoon, he's so much more expressive and he talks more and
hmm
he just feels more real.
Yeah, like even with Adam West, I love Adam West to death, but his like Bruce Wayne and Batman is like it's very they play it straight, but silly, it's sarcastic,
hmm
and this didn't have any of that. This, I mean, he had a wider range of emotions than you really saw before.
Adam West feels like more of a cartoon character than Kevin Conroy does.
Yeah,
Right. I love how his is different. He differentiates where Batman's very more stoic, very
Yeah.
monotone, where
Mhm.
and a little deeper, probably just a little deeper. But when he's Bruce Wayne, there's a lot more inflections. He's more playful.
Yeah.
He still has that like deep voice, but it's definitely a different character. And I think they really hit the nail on the head with that.
I love those moments where he's Bruce Wayne and he's talking with somebody and then he like turns around and walks off and then immediately turns into Batman. Like
Mhm.
just in voice.
yeah,
Or like where he's Batman and then something happens and he's like shocked and his eyes go all wide and then immediately Bruce Wayne's voice comes out of Batman.
yeah. I think he might have been the first to even think of doing like a different voice for Batman and Bruce Wayne. I could be wrong, but
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
I like Adam West just plays in the same.
He kind of has,
Keaton
yeah.
kind of did the same.
Adam West doesn't change his voice, but he changes his pitch.
Yeah,
I noticed that because there's a scene in the show, there's a couple scenes in the show, but there's one where he like is talking to Robin and then he picks up the phone and talks to Commissioner Gordon and then puts the phone back down and like is supposed to switch between voices basically.
yeah. He's talking to himself
Yeah.
as Batman and Robin. It's hilarious.
But all it does is like when he's Batman, he talks a little bit more robotic like this. But otherwise he has the same tone of voice and everything.
hmm
I also noticed after rewatching some of the episodes of the animated series recently, where it's almost like when he is Batman, he takes on this whole other character where he refers to Bruce Wayne as a different character,
Yeah,
Yeah.
as almost like a different person. Like once he is Batman, he mentions like Bruce Wayne as a third person, which is really interesting. So it really helps a lad along while his voice changes. Like
Yeah.
he really does take on a different character.
I do think that the Batman, and I don't know if this is just a Kevin Conroy thing or if this was like written this way in the script, but I do think the Batman from the animated series, it's very much played where Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same person, but when he dons the bat suit, he feels bigger than he is. You know, like he becomes something stronger,
Yeah.
more capable, more powerful.
you could definitely tell that Conroy, even though you're only listening to his voice, like you could definitely see him. He's like definitely like if you could watch him in the like the recordings,
Yeah.
you could definitely tell he's like animating himself differently.
Right. Like
to
his
get
body
to it.
language changes to get the voice. to-
Yeah.
And like there's more like venomosity behind everything he says.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Another thing I heard in the interview that I had watched recently was he wasn't very familiar with Batman besides the Adam West show.
Mm.
And he just took a lot of influence from what Bruce Timm was giving him. So he was very much, not necessarily a puppet, but like,
Yeah.
he didn't want to create something for his own. He was really like, what do you guys want me to do?
Yeah.
And was able to just make it really unique versus like, all throwing in all his own references from Batman in,
Yeah.
which
Well, that would
was really nice.
explain why,
Really
like,
made
as
his own
the-
character.
That would make sense, like, as why the show, as it goes on, they get into more, like, emotional storylines, whereas in the beginning, it's kind of just what you would expect from a Batman comic, little one-offs,
Yeah.
where he's fighting villains.
I think that works too because not you don't necessarily want. I mean, sometimes it's great when like an actor who like grew up with a character becomes that character, but other times Doctor Who, a lot of those actors like they don't necessarily have seen Doctor Who before it, and then they become the Doctor, and like that doesn't necessarily mean like they're gonna be bad at it. Like I
Mhm.
can't remember off the top of my head. I know one or two of them like just never watched it before, and then they got the role and like they knocked it out of the park. So
Exactly.
it's not necessarily a prerequisite, I don't think.
And plus, Kevin Conroy took it with him, and is in the video game
Yeah,
acting.
Yeah,
I
I mean, it's definitely like the thing he's most well known for now. So
He's probably voiced Batman more than anybody else. No, he
He's
definitely
easily,
has.
yeah.
He's played Batman more than any other actor.
he is Batman.
For sure.
I love it.
Yeah, our logo for our podcast is based on Batman the Animated Series,
Mhm.
and the slogan on our stickers is also
Yeah.
from Batman the Animated Series. So
'Cause, I mean, it's
clearly
very
we like it a lot. Yeah.
So after Kevin Conroy,
I want to just plug a couple of these voice actors. We don't have to talk about them all in crazy
Okay.
depth. Just a couple of them, like the big two for sure.
yeah,
But do you know who voices Catwoman?
not off the top of my head.
I don't.
It's Adrienne Barbeau, John Carpenter's wife.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that
Interesting.
awesome? I was like rewatching the show and I heard her voice and I was like, she sounds so freaking familiar.
Mm.
And it's because I had just rewatched The Fog. And then I looked
Oh,
it up.
okay.
And it was like, blew my mind because I love John Carpenter. He's hands down my favorite movie director.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think, I mean, we're not gonna, before we get to like the big elephant in the room with, not elephant, you know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
But I think that's what like also really made the whole voice cast amazing, was that like everybody had a lot of thought to who they cast.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure.
There's so many actors, many of them, I mean, this was made like 30 years ago, so
Mhm.
you know, many of them are like gone now, like from Zemblis Jr. played Alfred, Arlene Sorkin, well, she just retired, but
Yeah.
like they were like,
Oh, she was great.
yeah, a lot of them were good character actors and, you know, not necessarily like voice actor. You got really unique sounds from them. Like
Yeah.
I just finished watching Young Justice season 3, and the voice acting is good. It's fine voice acting, but like they're all voice actors, and some of them are like doing 2, 3 roles, and I've heard these guys in like all these cartoons.
Mm.
You know, it's like, oh yeah, this guy voiced like 5 different characters, and it's just the same voice I've heard over and over again.
Right.
With Batman the Animated Series, it has like a very different flavor to it. I can't explain it. It's just so much better.
I think part of that comes from casting actors, not voice actors necessarily. So
Yeah.
they're like actually acting in the voice acting room and they're
Yeah.
just recording only their voices. Because Mark Hamill has talked about that a lot, where when he records the Joker, he gets up and he's like moving around, he's getting really animated,
Mhm.
and it'd be really embarrassing to see in person, but that's how he gets those voices
Yeah.
to come out.
Like I don't want to diminish like voice actors by any
No,
means,
their voice
but
acting is awesome.
yeah, but like I can only take so much Nolan North. Ugh. Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that I thought was pretty cool that I looked up, Ra's al Ghul, the actor who voices Ra's al Ghul,
hmm
is the same actor who plays Master Computer in the movie Tron. He's the main villain of the movie Tron.
Oh, okay.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
I know he was in the only other thing I've seen him in was Grindhouse, which one? Planet Terror. He was in Planet Terror, this actor.
Oh, I'm sure he was.
Yeah.
I don't know the name of his character.
I
in the
don't
movie.
yeah, like I don't remember, but I just as soon as I heard his voice, I'm like, oh, that's Ra's al Ghul.
And then I think I said this in the last Bat Chat episode we did, but the guy who voices the Riddler in the animated series is the guy who plays the mad scientist, who's a big part of the whole Poison Ivy origin in Batman and
Oh
Robin.
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the crazy frizzy-haired scientist guy. Yeah,
Yeah. So it's got a super stacked cast.
pretty much. Those are just the deep cuts that I liked a lot because they pertain to my interests.
Yeah, I think obviously besides like the two big ones,
Yeah.
my favorite is Arlene Sorkin. Like that's
Yeah.
she just makes it really unique, does a great job with Harley Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously we'll probably talk about Harley Quinn
Yeah.
on this episode, but
I don't think
Yeah.
there's been a better Harley voice actor.
Yeah, I honestly don't. I mean, Harley's fine. I'm not a huge fan of Harley Quinn, but the best version of Harley Quinn is the original version of Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
for sure.
They kind of dropped her like Jersey accent,
Mm-hmm.
and it just hasn't had the same flavor. I haven't seen the new show yet though, so
I love the new show. I freaking love it, and I
Okay.
thought I was gonna hate it. My sister told me I should watch it,
Mhm.
and I put it on, and it blew my mind.
see, I'm really not a Harley Quinn fan at all,
Neither am I.
except for the animated series.
Neither am I.
That's
That's what I'm
only
saying.
that's the only way
So-
it's palatable for me.
Listeners, if you don't like the new Harley Quinn, if you're not a fan of Margot Robbie, but you love Harley Quinn from the animated series, and you love the Harley and Ivy dynamic, just try to watch the new show on HBO. It'll change your mind. It'll make
Okay.
you appreciate the new Harley because it does such a good job of bridging the original Harley and the new Harley, and like making an actual character arc out of that,
Mm.
and then reminding you constantly that she still is that original character. So good.
You have to check it out.
Yeah.
All right.
It's real X-rated and shit. It's fun.
So I guess now that we got all that out of the room, let's talk about Mark Hamill as the Joker.
Let's do it.
Perfection.
Yeah.
It's
like
great.
he's the Joker, just as Kevin Conroy is the Batman sound like voice actor.
Yeah. Nobody's ever going to do the Joker as well as Mark Hamill did the Joker, which is sad because
Yeah.
he's literally just giving him a voice, but that voice just fits so perfectly for the way he looks and the way he acts. You
Mhm.
know, like it's got that perfect like funniness and like sinisterness to it, man.
It
Yeah.
fluctuates. It's really deep. It's
Yeah.
really high sometimes when he's ecstatic
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
things.
And just like with Batman, like mid sentence, he's capable of getting creepy or getting sad or just like he can just take his voice anywhere. It's crazy.
The thing that I love about it the most is that when you listen to Mark Hamill as the Joker, you don't really hear Mark Hamill. I mean, we do now because it's it's
Yeah,
been
yeah.
many years and he's done that voice for other things,
Yeah.
similar voices. But like before that, it was like this. Well, this is Mark Hamill doing the Joker. Like,
Yeah, most you wouldn't know that. Like this guy played Luke Skywalker.
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember in high school when I had started rewatching the show because they were releasing the DVD sets, and I had bought the first volume and I was watching it, and then I saw his name on the credits and I was like, "What?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Hamill? That doesn't seem right." I looked it up and it was like, "Yeah, Mark Hamill voices the Joker," and I was like, "What? No."
Yeah, I was
My
a big
childhood.
Star Wars kid. I was a super Star Wars nerd as a kid, and
Yeah.
like seeing Mark Hamill in the credits for the animated series just gave me more validation to loving the series even more.
Mm-hmm.
Which I already loved it anyway, but
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting because it doesn't sound like him at all. But he
No,
does
it
such
really
a
doesn't.
great job. There's a lot of Joker episodes sprinkled into the series, so he does get to shine a lot. And there's a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
different toned episodes with the Joker too.
Yeah, there's the funny ones, then there's the really dark ones, then there's my favorite one probably with Joker is got to be Christmas with the Joker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so much to the Joker. In like he even plays it differently in Batman Beyond Return of the Joker.
Oh yeah,
Like-
more sinister.
Yeah, he gives it like a darker tinge to it. So it's even though it's still the same character, like he still plays it way differently, and it's awesome.
I think I prefer when he plays him more dark
Mm-hmm.
because it shows that he's just putting on an act most of the time. If that's like who he really is, like this terrifyingly dark murderer,
Yeah.
who just has like this jokey persona that he uses to like put people on edge.
Yeah, it seems like he does a lot of like really goofy, over the top antics as his character that he's portraying. But
Right.
then when things don't go his way, it really comes through how he's really sadistic.
Yeah, I feel like the jokiness he does, that is the Joker.
Yeah.
And then like the dark, scary, like pull a knife on you, stab you, like when his voice gets really deep, that's just like who he is. And we don't know who he really is besides the Joker.
Mhm.
You know who was originally going to voice him?
Who?
Tim Curry.
I think he would have done well too.
No,
But
right?
Yeah,
it would have sounded like the Lord of Darkness or whatever.
it would have a
But-
different flavor. It still would have been great. I'm really surprised they didn't try to get him back for like another Joker, like a version of the Joker somewhere out, like in another TV show or something.
And
Yeah.
Mark Hamill seems like he's really proud of his work on Batman too.
Oh, yeah.
He
They-
loves playing the Joker, and like he had a good
Yeah.
time with it, and he really appreciates a lot of stuff he does. So I like
It revitalized his career. He was, from what I heard, basically after he was having a hard time getting roles after Star Wars because everybody was just
typecast.
he got typecast as Luke Skywalker, and he's a great actor. So yeah, in the '90s, I guess when he got the chance to voice Joker, he took it, and
Why wouldn't you?
yeah,
Yeah, it's awesome.
Even if the show bombed, you could be like, I voiced the Joker
Yeah.
on Batman, the animated series.
Yeah, I think my favorite Joker episode is The Laughing Fish for sure.
That one's really
That's
good.
an excellent
That
one.
was also just like a really good show, a really good episode because it's a reference to a specific comic book.
Oh, okay.
Super good.
I don't think I've read.
it's a good one. It's a good one. And then he was excellent too in Mask of the Phantasm.
That's
Yeah.
that's not an episode of the show, but that's my favorite Joker right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I need to watch that one again. It's on my upcoming list here too.
Oh, yeah.
I haven't seen it in so long, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to like
It's
get back into it.
It's
Yeah.
so good. It's so dark. I love all the stuff when he's like in the city of tomorrow and he's like talking to like the little robot dog and the robot wife. And
Yeah.
I think it's so funny. He's like playing it off like it's some sort of like sitcom and he's the star.
yeah, and then we even get to see a bit of him as Jack Napier before he even like
Yeah,
becomes
that's
Joker.
right. They actually gave him the name of Jack Nicholson's Joker from the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he was like just as
It was despicable.
yeah, just as despicable and just evil before that, but like the Joker really made it like come out of him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like the way that they portrayed him too. Like the Joker, the Jack Nicholson Joker, he's great and all. Like he is a really good version of the Joker, and he's the first like dark version of the Joker because we have Cesar Romero before
I
that.
think it's the closest to the animated series. And
Well, yeah, but that's probably because the animated series took that version and ran with it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think that Mark Hamill took it up to like one or two notches higher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And made it more into like a comic book character and not just like this guy is a guy who wears clown makeup or like looks like a clown, but he's a gangster and he's a killer.
Like I think Jack Nicholson's probably the biggest inspiration on it, but I think it's a synthesis of that and a lot of the Neil Adams.
Oh yeah, definitely Neil Adams.
Yes, the Neil Adams era, and then obviously the Golden Age.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We could go on and on about Mark Hamill.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
wrap it up on Mark Hamill.
All
I
right.
do like the voice actor that played Robin.
Oh yeah,
I don't
He's really
remember
good.
his name, but You know,
Yeah,
I don't think the writing for Robin is the best,
Lauren Lester.
Yeah.
but I do think that the way he portrays that character is really well done as far as like his age and how he should act and like.
I agree. I think he did a really, really good job of playing Robin.
Yeah.
Probably the best adaptation of Robin that I've seen on a screen, whether it's live action or animated.
He really does
Yeah.
shine in Robin's Reckoning, that 2-part.
Yeah. Yeah. That was a good version of
It's so
Thornton.
good. Like I've never really been a big Robin fanboy at all, but like those two, that little mini story arc in the animated series just really made me appreciate Robin more. You know,
Yeah.
it's just really, it's like his first appearance in the comic book and what they do, but like
Mhm.
deeper. And-
Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
so I don't want to get fully into this yet because we'll get into this later. But
Mhm.
one thing that the show did super successfully is it took like all the Batman comics from like 1939 to like 1992 or 1991, and it made it into like one cohesive narrative basically.
Mhm.
And it took all like the best stories that they could find from different writers and artists, and it just like pulled together basically like a greatest hits,
Yeah.
and then made that into the show.
It's like the greatest hits. Like
Yeah.
it's canon. It's
Yeah.
it's everything.
And so like Robin and even Batman, their origin stories have been redone like 3 times up to this point, and they've been fine-tuned and fine-tuned and fine-tuned. And they just took each version of the origin story and picked out the parts they liked the best and then just made their own.
On top of that, like, not only did they do that, but they were also able to just add their own new elements to it that were like so popular that now they're, they integrated them into the main comics,
Yeah,
and like you can't imagine it without it now.
for sure. I think everything that the animated series did became incorporated into the character
Yeah, so
in some way, shape, or
like
form.
actually even up to now, they like I haven't read it, but I heard they finally incorporated Red Claw into the
Yeah.
Catwoman comics.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, crazy. Like after all
After
these
all
years.
these years.
I think
Yeah.
probably the only character that hasn't been added, and I could be wrong, would be Roxy Rocket. Do you remember Roxy
Yeah, I
Rocket?
do. Yeah.
She was created around the same time that Harley Quinn was, and she wore like a bomber jacket and like a little like leather skull cap, and she rode around on a giant rocket.
Okay.
She was pretty much orgasming as like
Yeah.
near the end of that one episode. They were very
Bruce Timm
Not
has
subtle.
like a thing for like specific types of women, and so like he even said that he created Harley Quinn and Roxy Rocket because they're just like his ideal women. You know, yeah, a little off. You know.
We did go on to make that like book of erotic art or whatever.
Oh yeah,
that
yeah.
happened
Bruce,
later.
Bruce Timm loves drawing women for sure. He's got a whole book of drawings of women
Mhm.
and like monsters, women and monsters. So
Actually, isn't that our next bullet point or
the next bullet point was the score.
the score? Okay, score. So the main theme was done. I mean, it's take the very famous Tim Burton Batman theme for.
Yeah, it's the Danny Elfman theme from
Yep.
the
Oh,
Batman movie.
did I say Tim Burton? Yeah, I meant Danny Elfman.
The Danny Elfman theme
Yeah.
from the Batman movie from 1989.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which they then reused in Batman Returns,
Mhm.
and then this show's pretty much like was basically made to be a spin-off of the Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the music in the show was done by Shirley Walker. The late Shirley Walker. I know she passed away.
It's not exactly like
I would-
the Danny Elfman theme. I think it cuts out some of the things that make Danny Elfman's themes all sound the same, which is that sort of like carnival sound. I don't know how to describe it really, but if you watch Tim Burton movies, like OG Tim Burton movies, where they're all done by Danny Elfman, they all have this kind of like,
A lot of xylophone.
yeah, like it cuts out all
up
that
and
stuff,
down. Yeah.
and that by doing that, it makes it feel more like classic, I guess.
It does a great job. Like I
Yeah.
know that you have the theme, the Danny Elfman theme, and then everything else kind of plays off that. And it does do a good job of playing the score differently for different villains that it's trying to showcase. So like
Yep.
the Joker episodes, the score is completely different from like, a Scarecrow episode.
But one thing that I love about the show, which I should have put bullet points in here for, even more than the theme itself, is the title card sequences.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Title card for the show is beautiful.
Yeah,
It's like
they're all
technical
frameable on their own.
masterpiece. Yeah, and each one has a subtle little like 3 to 5 second cue of music
Yeah.
that works perfectly for like setting the tone for each episode.
Yeah.
It's very reminiscent for the old Superman stuff.
Yeah.
That came out.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, like each episode got its own score, and it's something that couldn't be done today because they wanted to make it like old cartoons or even like shows back then where they had just an actual orchestra come in and like score each individual episode.
Yeah.
Like they must have had a crazy budget for this show because they, like I said, they couldn't do it today, and you could tell even as later on when they got to Justice League Unlimited, Justice League, at that point they were using like computers or just like a Loop Studio or whatever,
Right.
and it sounds noticeably cheaper. Like the compositions are fine, but like it sounds cheaper than Batman the Animated Series, which you could put that on vinyl and just listen to it. So
Oh,
good.
I don't think they'll ever make a Batman show, or any comic book show really, that's as good as Batman the Animated Series, because I think the reason it's so good is because of the time when it came out.
Yeah.
And it's just like a perfect culmination of all these different things.
Oh yeah, like it was like that style of animation was like at its peak before most computer stuff started taking over too.
Yeah.
And like it was just right there. I mean, if you think of like, I know we're gonna get off the score a little bit when I say this, but some of the shots that are in the show,
Mhm.
and it's all animated, drawn.
Yeah.
There's like painting in it as well. Some scenes look different than just like it just being drawn and animated like a comic book.
Yeah.
It reminds me a lot of like how Cowboy Bebop had really good, shots and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Like that
Yeah.
mid 90s.
Like they almost like they hired a cinematographer to like frame shots. It's not just
Yeah.
like painting backgrounds and putting characters on them.
You can
Like
see
angles, there's camera angles.
you can really see the human element to the cells and the animation
Mhm.
to it. I haven't listened to them since I was like in high school when the DVDs came out, but I watched the whole thing with the commentaries on, and the one I remember most was Heart of Ice,
Oh, I love Heart of Ice.
and they said that they didn't like because they would take send out the animation to get done in Japan and Korea,
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't even ask the animator to do this, but he like frosted the Mr. Freeze's helmet, and it was just like this wonderful detail, and that they like didn't even think to request, and they just put it in there out of love.
Yeah, that's a great episode. Great character. I love the reimagining of Mr. Freeze for the show,
Mhm.
and I think it really changed Mr. Freeze
Oh yeah,
Completely.
a lot, in a very positive way.
Yeah, after
and-
that, he was never the same in the comics.
Yeah, like if you look at the comics from like the 80s, like the early 80s, Mr. Freeze, and then you go Batman the Animated Series, Mr. Freeze, and onward, it took that, like, oh, that's really good. Let's keep some of that
Yeah.
and go
Yeah.
forward with it, which I really appreciate. And
yeah.
we'll get to our villains later, but Mr. Freeze is one of my top.
Yeah.
So.
I don't think they created that backstory for him. I think
No, they did.
They really 100%. I thought they
I-
took elements of his original backstory, but then they made it more tragic.
Maybe, yeah. I just know that like before then he was kind of a comedy, character, and
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
like
Just
most
kind
of
of a-
Batman's rogues. He's just
Kind of an angry guy with
stealing
the
the
ice gun.
diamonds,
yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, they really humanized him and made him a tragic figure.
for sure. They did. They did that with all the villains. They did such a good job with all the villains.
Yeah.
All right, next I have Art by Bruce Timm.
Mm.
This was something when I was a kid that I was like on the fence about initially when I watched the show, because I love the comic books, and Batman in the cartoon looks nothing like my favorite Batman artist. But then all it took was watching like two or three episodes, and I was like, all right, I'm on board,
Mhm.
because it works so well with the way that the show is animated. The
Yeah.
big square shoulders and the huge eyes, and the big giant square jaw. It's definitely stylized.
Yeah, I love the style that he brought to the table. It's very, I mean, obviously you can see a lot of references from like Alex Toth, like Space Ghost and all the Hanna-Barbera stuff that he
Oh,
worked
yeah.
on. It's very similar to that, but just taken in a different direction, like his own unique direction.
Yeah.
Dan DeCarlo's, Archie comics is very, like, especially for the women, for sure.
Oh,
He's a-
yeah.
He's a huge
Total
fan of
effort
Dan
of
DeCarlo.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like a mix between those two artists creating this love for Batman and then just going forth with it.
I see a lot of Jack Kirby in there too.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
It's a perfect mix of like three things. You nailed it with the Dan DeCarlo thing, because
Mhm.
he's a huge fan of Archie comics, and that's like where his style was originally coming from. But also, I think Max Fleischer cartoons. He
Mhm.
said specifically like his goal with making Batman the Animated Series was to make a Batman equivalent of the Superman Max Fleischer cartoons.
Oh, yeah. They're very,
You know.
very similar, like just the formatting of them.
Yeah, like the title cards and like
Yeah.
the coloring, like the desaturation and the use of like weird lightning and electricity, and
Mhm.
just like
And the Art Deco,
and the
like,
art deco.
Oh, yeah.
exactly the time period that those took place in.
It's
Yeah.
so good. Yeah, I mean, I want to talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Like the setting of the animated series is so interesting and unique. And even now, me in my 30s watching it again, I'm like, I can't even pinpoint like what it's its own fantasy universe. You get
Yeah.
this really 40s, 30s
Mhm.
Art Deco style city and cars.
Yeah.
They have computers and phones, and then
Yeah.
all the street people dress like the 90s. But like
Yeah.
it's this is really
It's just
interesting.
like its
Yeah.
own weird universe.
yeah, and I love it. I love it to death.
Yeah. it's got a timeless quality to it. Yeah.
I mean, for style, for sure, and then but then like the art, like you're saying, like desaturation of like how they did the color and a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Just like the direction of where they took the art with it is amazing.
I hear even the backgrounds to make it just even that much darker. They use black construction paper and then colored over that to
Okay.
give
That's
like
cool.
even a darker feel to it.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think with this show, like it's an amazing show, but I think if you want to look at it or look at just purely like the art style encapsulated, the intro, like
Yeah,
it speaks so much.
it's definitely like every intro when you watch it. I mean, it's the one intro, but when you watch the intro, it's like the trailer for the show.
It really is.
Yeah.
It sets the tone, but it uses the score perfectly. It does a lot of like silhouettes and shadows, and it has the dark red sky and everything in the background, like, and shows you how the action is going to flow.
Yeah.
It makes Batman seem kind of intimidating and scary. Like, oh, man,
Yeah. It tells a story on its own.
it does.
without
That's
even-
what I guess what I'm
without saying a single word. I don't even think it might say like police somewhere on it, but I don't think there's any words in it to
It does on like the
Yeah.
little
like a
the
blimp.
helicopters, the blimps.
Yeah.
Blimps, yeah.
But yeah,
The
just
Warner
that
Brothers
note-
logo turns into like the blimp lights.
That's
It's
so
good.
clever.
It's so good.
Yeah. I know they wanted to do something like that for Superman the animated series, but I think they said they like just didn't have the time.
I love the intro to that show. I love that show too. I love all
Oh,
of
no,
the
that's a great show, too.
cartoons. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
But Batman is the cream of the crop.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah, and in preparation for this, I was like, well, where did Bruce Timm start? Like, I tried to go backwards before Batman and like try to follow it, and he worked on He-Man, which is awesome. Like, I'm a big He-Man fan. I wasn't really a big He-Man fan when I was younger, but as
But He-Man was
I
huge.
love it.
It was one of the biggest cartoons ever
And
made.
he worked on Secret of Nim. I didn't realize, which
Oh,
was
wow.
really cool. And then,
And also really dark.
yeah, and then Mighty Mouse is when you first started seeing like his style in like cartoons, I think, and then obviously, Tiny Toons.
Yeah. Tiny.
Tiny Toons was like his deal with Warner Brothers and went straight from Tiny Toons to Batman, and I was like, oh, it's perfect because Tiny
Yeah.
Toons is a great show too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's even a scene in one episode of Batman animated series where some cop, or I think it was like a security guard, he's sitting there reading a Tiny Toons comic.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, at one point, Bruce Timm like basically owned all WB animation, it felt like, because he was cranking out Tiny Toons, Batman, Superman, Justice League, Animaniacs, Zeta Project.
Yeah.
It was just like
And let's not forget about
show
Freakazoid.
after show. Freakazoid.
Freakazoid's so good. And
Freakazoid-
Paul Dini was on that too.
Dude, they
They
stopped doing
Freakazoid.
Freakazoid because Freakazoid's basically like a ripoff of Madman, the comic book series, the comic book character.
Oh
Madman.
really?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looks the same, he acts the same skin color.
I loved Freakazoid.
Freakazoid's great, but
Yeah.
yeah, if you love Freakazoid, check out Madman.
I'll have to check that
comic
out.
series.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Do we want to move on to the next topic?
Yeah.
The writing, Paul Dini.
Paul Dini did a great job on the show. I know he's not the only writer, but
Yeah,
he's
there's a lot
definitely
of writers.
he's definitely the one you think of when you think of Batman animated series.
Yeah, definitely the co-creator of the series in general, and probably had his finger in a lot of what was going on with every episode, I'm assuming. But my favorite episode that he exclusively wrote was the Heart of Ice episode. Actually, I wrote it down, but
Yeah, Heart of Ice.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so good. So
Yeah, when I think of Paul Dini and I think of Batman, I always think of the tragedy because he's really good at writing tragic stories
Mhm.
that make the characters seem just so like just have so much more depth. So yeah, like Heart of Ice for sure, and then the Two-Face, Two-Face
yeah.
part 1 and 2.
Mhm.
Oh my god, that forever changed Two-Face for me because I always thought of Two-Face as just like a villain who was obsessed with things in twos,
Mhm.
and then that made him out to be like Bruce Wayne's best friend. Like
yeah,
and like Batman / Bruce Wayne is like his link to humanity, and then like seeing how his life falls apart and how he basically is responsible for his own life falling apart. Like he had a second chance and he turned it down. It shows that he's really out of control of his other personality, and it also I think that was the first time they really like pulled mental illness into Two-Face.
oh okay,
instead of just
yeah,
being like-
because he was going to the psychiatrist.
Yeah, like
before
he had something
turned.
going on before he turned, and
Yeah.
like that accident is what like brought that psyche forward. Whereas like before, it was like, oh yeah, the accident is what turned him into Two-Face.
Yeah, he wasn't obsessed. He wasn't obsessed with number two. He just had obsession with duality
Yeah,
and fighting his own duality, and that was a much smarter move.
Yeah.
yeah, and,
I-
and just like integrating the canon of the series to like there's that episode where Poison Ivy's introduced as a date to Harvey Dent when they're out.
Oh yeah.
Bat,
Oh yeah,
and then like obviously that escalates and then he becomes Two-Face later and stuff. It's like just how cohesive it was in the beginning of the show throughout the show.
yeah,
How things are kind of just connected.
yeah. There's even in the episode Almost Got Him when they're sitting in the around corner playing cards and talking about their stories before.
Oh, that's such a good episode.
There's just one line where I don't even remember what the line was, but like it acknowledges that Harley good. Poison Ivy and Harvey Dent dated at one point.
Yeah, it's so good. Like, I mean, just like that episode in general, it and like the Two-Face story and how it's cohesive with everything else really makes it like this show is not necessarily a kid's cartoon. It's an adult cartoon that's
Mhm.
kids friendly. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
because it doesn't have like, gore, it doesn't have language, it doesn't have sex in it.
Well, they got extremely lucky with it because they aired it in prime time.
Mhm.
Like it was originally, I believe, on UPN, and it wasn't like a Saturday morning cartoon. It was primetime TV, which is why they were even allowed to have like Tommy guns and actual guns shooting real bullets.
Yeah.
Before then, like they had like Spider-Man was airing around the same time, and they
Yeah,
couldn't
okay.
have actual bullets. They had like laser guns.
Yeah, it was all this like
Yep.
pink
And then
light.
like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morbius couldn't bite people in the neck. He had to have like suction cups in his hands.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Spider-Man, I believe they couldn't even allow him to punch somebody.
Really?
Yeah.
I have to watch it again. I mean, I liked watching
I love
Spider-Man
that
as a
show.
kid too.
Don't get me wrong, but I like that show for a completely different reason.
Yeah.
Like Batman.
Oh yeah, Batman is like a really serious, amazing show, regardless of it being a cartoon or not. Like I love
Yeah.
Spider-Man for being a cartoon. I love Batman the Animated Series for being a piece of art.
Yeah.
Different. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Spider-Man animated series, I don't know if you can show that show to a kid now and they would like it the way we can, but you could definitely show them Batman the animated series and they can grow an appreciation for it.
Yeah, I think Batman, you grow and you appreciate it more as time goes on, and you realize how ahead of its time it was, and how adult it is, and how it's surprising that when you're a kid you can watch it and still grasp most of those concepts.
Yeah.
But Spider-Man is kind of just like the villain of the week,
Yeah.
you know?
And that CGI did not age well.
No.
Oh.
All right.
I like the intro screen.
Yeah. Anything
Yeah.
else you want to talk about the writing besides the fact that it's really good and it's lots of tragic villains?
I mean, that is like I said earlier. I think the cohesiveness of all the episodes and how they interact, and just his involvement. I know like he doesn't write all the episodes, and there's a lot of episodes that he didn't exclusively write that were also really good. But
But
the
I
fact that they came together with
Yeah.
Bruce Timm to create this show in general is
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think different writers had different episodes that they had written, but in general, Paul Dini formed the overall story arc and narrative of the show.
Gotcha.
So I like that every villain in the show is portrayed as having some sort of like tragic origin story.
Mhm.
So you feel for them instead of just being like Batman, beat him up. You
And
know?
they're all kind of interconnected with Wayne in some
Yeah,
way,
just
but-
like him, just like Batman himself, there's tragedy in their past, and like that tragedy is what fuels them.
Like even I know when I rewatched it through last year, like the baby doll episode.
Oh, Baby Doll. I love Baby
Like,
Doll. Baby
super
Doll, and Killer
tragic.
Croc.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Well, I mean that's a silly episode, but like her intro episode,
Yeah,
was,
it's
like
really sad.
super sad at the end. Holy crap.
But I like how they can take Killer Croc's origin story and Baby Doll's origin story, which are both tragic as hell, and then they can turn it into like comedy gold. by
Yeah.
turning the two of them together.
Yeah, like a sitcom. It's so funny.
Yeah. That's another thing that Bruce Timm and Paul Dini excel at is like taking tragedy and making it hilarious.
Yeah, and it doesn't feel like a tonal clash.
No,
Oh
that's-
yeah, like
Joker
some of
and
the
Harley is a prime
Joker
example of
episodes.
that, too,
Yeah, the Joker episodes are like there's a lot of Joker episodes where you really feel like, man, how Batman might die right now, and they have to create some crazy cartoony way for him to get out of some
Yeah.
stuff. And I'm like, oh, I'm not really buying that, but it's all right. But like, yeah, it's
No.
really well done.
Yep. All right, next category, childhood memories of the show.
Oh man, where do we begin?
What time of day did you watch it? Usually,
My biggest memories in my head was like in the afternoon. So
Yep.
whenever, I mean, obviously those were like reruns, but I remember being in my room watching it on like this really ancient TV and like sitting on the carpet and watching it and just kind of alone, just like watching the show and enjoying it
Yep.
from a pretty young age.
I think usually it was like getting home from school. It was coming on like right as you get home.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe that's when it was. Yeah,
Yeah, I know. Were you in Arizona at the time? I don't know what
yeah. I've lived in Arizona most of my life.
Okay, yeah, like so I know I would watch it on Kids WB 61.
Mm-hmm.
WB.
Yeah, and then
61.
like when it was in elementary school, and then it lasted a long time, and then they like rebranded it to be like the Batman Superman, the Batman Superman hour
Mm-hmm.
or something like that.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah,
Because they would play Batman and then the Superman cartoon.
yeah. And then years after it ended, they put it on Toonami for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah.
I watched it then too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
I
I
think I remember watching it.
it got a second life on Toonami, which is when I would watch it, and then
What was that? Was that when we were in high school? Or
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Middle
That's-
school or high school.
I think middle school, high school
yeah,
era.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, like it was Batman animated series, and then they would play like Thundar, and something about the Ninja Show, Pirates of Darkwater.
Oh,
I
yeah,
think.
That's actually a pretty good show too. I used to read the comics for that show.
Yeah, and then after that, that's when they started releasing the DVDs.
Mm-hmm.
No, okay.
And then whatever meager money I was able to make back then, I went to I went to Walmart and I would pick up the DVD box sets as they came out, and so I ended up getting all 3 of the box sets, and then was it 3 or 4?
There's 4
volumes.
There's 4, yeah. They split season 2 into
Yeah,
like
it's
2.
long. There's a lot of episodes in season 1.
I remember having all those box sets too. I think I bought mine at like Suncoast Video, which doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah.
Because they had a closeout sale going, and I was able to get each one for like $20.
Nice.
Yeah, because they were expensive when they first came out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember borrowing the DVDs from a buddy of mine back in the day to kind of rewatch them after watching them as a kid. And then now just, getting ready for the podcast, I picked them all up on Blu-ray and I've been enjoying watching all them again. And it's probably the first time I've actually watched them chronologically in the order that at least the show says it's in order, which is kind of weird. But
so have you noticed like how sometimes the animation quality dips or sometimes it's like really, really good, depending on whether or not they were sending it to Japan or Korea?
Yeah, I mean, some episodes are just better than others, I would think, but I haven't picked up on which ones were which as far as like which got sent out.
They talked about it in the special features a little.
Yeah, I know they would talk about that in the commentaries a lot, specifically. I mean, it wasn't specifically if they were like sending it to Japan or Korea. It was like specific.
It was
animation
studios, yeah. But there was like one animation studio that they would send it to if like the other one was overloaded on work because they were dealing with so much other WB animation.
Gotcha.
And if they sent it to that one, it never turned out quite as good. Like the characters look a little bit off, like their eyes look a little different, or like just the animation itself would be different. Like they'd move more or less fluidly than you're used to. Yeah. So there's a couple episodes and you'll watch them and you'll be like, that looks a little different than usual, but it's not bad.
Usually the best ones, I don't know if they did the majority. I don't think they did the majority of Batman. But TMS was usually like the highest quality animation house. And they've done like pretty much every cartoon you could think of at this point. Like if you watch like your old cartoons, like, and you were looking for specifically at the quality, usually the best animated ones were TMS. They did that like 4 episode intro to like TMNT.
Okay.
Like the original TMNT, they did a lot of Tiny Toons. I mean, they're most well known for like Lupin the Third.
Yeah.
So they're a legendary animation studio, and usually they just have great stuff.
I like the episodes where they're not animated as well either. They have a very unique charm to them because they feel more cartoony and less adult.
Yeah,
because they're more fluid, like the way they move around.
Oh yeah, it's more dramatic, like not dramatic in a drama sense, but more dramatic, like radical movements.
Yeah, it's just dramatic movements. Yeah, things feel a little more like loose. It's kind of hard to describe.
Yeah, I think that's like kind of lost today with how digital everything is.
Yeah, it's always the same.
It's easier for quality to be exactly the same no matter who's doing it.
Did you guys have any like the action figures or anything like that when you were kids?
My favorite one that comes to mind, it was one where Batman was wearing white. It was like a anti-freeze suit, and it had like red stripes on him, and he had like, instead of the gray, it was white. And that was, I don't know why, but that's the one that sticks out of my head.
Why did they feel the need to make all these ridiculous Batman figures that had all these different colored rainbow suits?
I don't know, just to sell more of them, like you got to have all of them, right? But yeah, that was the one that sticks out to me the most as far as me playing with the toys, but I had that one for sure.
I definitely had a couple, and I had a couple of those weird ones too, and it always drove me nuts as a kid that they had those. But as an adult, I can kind of see the appeal to like all these weird random Batman suits that he would never use in the comic books.
Yeah.
And I wish I had like a wall of like all the Batman suits. They're so ridiculous.
I don't think I had any of the Batman animated series figures, oddly enough. I can't think of a single one that I had.
Oh man.
Yeah, at the time I was way more into having a bunch of...
Now I know I have some Justice League Justice League Batmans sitting somewhere.
Oh, you know what you did have at least? You at least had those guys right there.
Yeah, I have that one.
You had the big Justice League 12 inchers.
Yeah.
Things were sick.
Yeah.
I still have the Batman one, obviously, because he's so perfect. That's like as close as we're ever going to get to seeing like the Golden Age Batman from Bruce Timm until that new series, Caped Crusader, comes out this year.
Yeah.
You know about that, Justin?
Mm-mm.
Bruce Timm is going back and they're taking another swipe at Batman the Animated Series, and it's called Caped Crusader. And it's going to be more true to his original vision of the series. So it's going to be more like the comic books that Thomas and I are reviewing on the podcast.
Okay.
Like the late 30s, early 40s Batman.
So more like how
low-tech.
it started, and more low tech. Okay, yeah. where he's just driving around a roadster, not necessarily the
Yeah.
Batmobile.
We don't know too many details,
Bit of
but
hope, yeah.
yeah, hopefully.
I'm really excited to see where they go with that. I didn't really like play a ton of the Batman animated series video games when I was a kid. I definitely played one of them. I think it was either Super Nintendo or Genesis. It was a side scroller beat 'em up. Thought that was pretty fun.
That one, yeah, The Adventures of Batman and Robin.
Yep.
That was a good one. We should definitely play through that soon because
I'll
they have
definitely
it
do
on
that.
like Mister.
The Twitch stream on that one.
Yeah.
And then I
another
also played.
bat chat with like the video games.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
We're gonna do that soon.
And then I also played Batman Vengeance, which was on a couple different consoles, and then Rise of Sin Tzu, which were both specifically based on the animated series. And I really loved those two. I thought they were great.
I don't think I've played any of those.
Yeah.
I never played them because at that point, I like in that era, Batman had a reputation for not having very good quality video games.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't until Batman Arkham Asylum came out that they said, hey, we can make a good Batman game.
Can we just say real quick, the Batman Arkham series is the spiritual successor to Batman the Animated Series.
I
Like,
would say that.
The
and
voice
I would
acting
agree.
and the way the characters are done and everything, like it feels
It kind of fits inside with that canon, just in a different art direction.
Yeah, they kind
Yeah.
of took it. Yeah, like it is a spiritual successor, I think. But weirdly enough, I'm not too fond of that universe.
in general.
Just the tone and the designs.
Some of the
Like,
designs are iffy.
Yeah, like
yeah, I think
the-
it could look better. I think it would look better.
the
if-
games I love playing them.
Yeah,
they
same.
feel great. It's finally a video game where you feel like you're Batman. But outside of that, like, not my favorite portrayals.
I always play through the game with different skins. I don't play through with the base Batman skin because I always play through with either the animated series one or like the 70s blue and gray Jim Aparo classic looking Batman. Because same, I'm not a
Yeah.
huge fan of the designs of some of the characters, but the game just feels so much Batman.
You know, they got all the details there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, my most memorable game of Batman playing younger was one on Game Boy. And I think it was after one of the movies came out.
Was
It was
One of the original games on the original Game Boy?
yeah, it was
Like
it was
Return of the
before
Joker?
Game Boy Color, I believe. So I think it might have been from Batman Returns.
Was it Batman the movie, like the game, or was it
Hold on,
Batman?
let me put my phone out.
I used to play Batman Return of the Joker a lot on the Game Boy and the original Batman game on the Game Boy, and I love those games, but they're difficult. They're so difficult.
Yeah, I definitely think we need to have a day where we just stream Batman games.
We will. We'll
Yeah.
have a bonus Bat episode dedicated solely to playing Batman.
I last night, as I got my Mister and I was just messing with the Sega CD games.
Mhm.
That one has Batman Returns and Adventures of Batman and Robin. And the Adventures of Batman and Robin one is notable because it has what kind of basically culminates into a lost episode of Batman the Animated Series.
Yeah.
They got like some anime studio to do like the cutscenes. They look really nice. But the gameplay is just like kind of abysmal. All it is you're in the Batmobile and you're just kind of like cruising along and shooting things.
Ugh.
Not the best gameplay, but the music was really good. It didn't fit the animated series, but it's like this awesome like 90s like
Yeah.
electronic album. Oh, it's
There you
good.
go.
You'll definitely like the other two, Sin Tzu and Vengeance, then, because they do the same thing. They have cutscenes that look like the cartoon. but
Yeah,
then
I want to play
they-
through those. I have them on my GameCube, so
Yeah.
we'll play that sometime too.
super fun. Keep looking that up.
Yeah,
gonna-
oh
we're
yeah,
gonna-
it was like Batman the video game after the '89 Batman.
I definitely played that. one. I
That's
played
the
that
game
on
I
the
played the
NES
most.
too.
I didn't even realize there were so many Game Boy Batman games based off of like the Batman animated series.
Yeah,
So I'll have to try to hunt those
they're
down.
they're definitely all fun in their
Yeah,
own
like
way.
what is this from Game Boy Color?
I'm gonna skip over setting the
Galaxy
high
Go.
bar for animation because I feel like it's pretty.
We went over that.
Yeah, we
we
know.
kind of covered that a little bit. I don't know that we necessarily need to get into portrayals of the characters versus the comics, but we can just say that like it basically every character was adapted for the cartoon, and in a way that it seemed like that should have been their original origin story all along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It made them all fit so much better in the Batman canon that like going forward, I think even the comic books and every movie adaptation has taken some inspiration from the animated series versions of those characters.
I would agree with that. I think it's like you said before, it's kind of like the greatest hits of Batman in general coming up to that point.
Yeah.
Put it all together in like this really good canon,
Yeah.
and I think probably I
Hey,
think going
yeah.
forward kind of grabbed from that.
Even Batman Forever, which was it came out as they were still airing the show.
Mm-hmm.
Like took the I don't think they took the whole. They didn't take the whole Harvey Dent origin. I don't think.
Not exactly.
No,
they
you just-
kind of skipped over that.
But they did.
glossed over it.
They did the first episode where, at least they did the episode where he's flipping the coin to decide if Batman lives or dies, and Batman throws the
Oh
the
yeah,
bag of quarters.
yep.
Such
That's
a dig.
Yeah,
that's
But
straight from the cartoon.
it is.
yeah. It feels like a dick move in the movie, but it's like it's very clever in in the cartoon.
I know. But that just shows the writing difference between the show
Yeah.
and the movies, I would say that like the show in a weird way sort of taught me like what the difference between good writing and bad writing, because every episode of the show is like gold.
Yeah.
And it all just feels so like purposeful. And then you watch something like Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, where they're trying to like copy some of these stories, and they do it in such a tacky, tacked on way. It doesn't feel right,
Yeah.
you know?
Even the episode, I don't remember what it's called, but the one that they like voted was like the worst one. It was in the fourth or the last season where they changed everything. The farmhouse one. Do you remember the one with the robot goat?
No.
I don't remember that. No,
Oh,
I haven't got there and rewatching them all yet. So
it's rated the worst one, but I rewatched it and it's still like it's so much fun. It's
still solid.
great. Yeah, it's like about like an evil farmer and his like daughter. And they have like they send like this robot goat into like the police station,
Yeah.
and it like opens his mouth and releases like a poison gas. It's fun. It's a fun episode.
I'll check that one out.
Yeah, one thing I really liked about one of the episodes was which episode was it? It was the one where it shows like Bruce Wayne as a kid. One second here.
Was it Beware the Grey Ghost?
Yeah. Yep.
No, that's
that
a good
one.
episode.
Yep. Exactly. That's what I was going to talk about.
In high school, I probably would have put that on my favorites episode list because Adam West is in it, like,
It's one of my notable mentions when we get to that point
Yeah.
of this podcast. But like showing Bruce Wayne, and like I don't think I've ever seen that done before. Like why did he become Batman the way Batman is?
Mhm.
And it was like,
Yeah.
oh, here's an episode of him watching the Grey Ghost.
We'll talk about that episode.
yeah. Because in the comic books, they do that sort of too, but it's different. It's not the Grey Ghost. In the movie, in the show, they created the Grey Ghost to replace a different character from the comic books.
Okay.
But they did such a good job with it that I love that,
Yeah, that's a good one.
I wanted to talk about how like it was such a successful show that it spawned a Superman animated series, a Batman Superman hour, a Batman Superman movie, a Justice League show, and Justice League Unlimited eventually,
And Batman Beyond. Right
and
after.
Batman Beyond.
Yep.
So clearly,
And then even then, Batman Beyond got a spin-off.
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Yep, and its own movie as well.
Yep.
So,
Multiple movies.
multiple movies? I thought it just had the one.
Well, and it had Mask of the Phantasm, which was theatrical.
Oh, I was
but-
just thinking Batman Beyond, but yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and then Sub-Zero,
Yeah.
The Mystery of the Batwoman.
hmm
Am I missing one?
No, that's all. Well, yeah, that's all three of the actual Batman animated series ones.
Yeah. All good, by the way, but
Yeah.
definitely Mask of the Phantasm and Sub-Zero were the highlights.
Yeah, Sub-Zero was. It more or less culminates to just being like a two-parter that they just made into a movie.
It does
Mm.
feel like an episode of the show, but
I think that specifically it was,
mhm.
but yeah, they just turned it into a direct-to-TV movie.
But you said Mask of the Phantasm was theatrical, right?
Yeah, that one was theatrical.
Yeah.
And it notably was the only Batman movie that Siskel and Ebert gave 2 thumbs up to.
Yeah, it's funny. It's also like people talk about how dark Batman Returns is, but Mask of the Phantasm is pretty damn dark.
Yeah.
Like it's about someone dressing up like a ghost and murdering people because those people are involved in the murder of their parents. And it delves into Batman's trauma and talks about his origin and why he became Batman and all that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, probably my first jump into the Batman world was probably Batman Returns. So
Yeah.
like that's my first memory of Batman, was watching Batman Returns and then the animated series after that. So that's kind of how it started. And then I got handed a bunch of Batman comics from the 80s, and that has always been my like, this is Batman. Everything else, I'm like, how does it relate to that?
So
Mhm.
like, late 80s, early 90s Batman.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how it is for me too. It probably like late 70s, early 80s to late 80s. And then I just picked up and went on from there.
So, what do we got now? Where are we at?
All we have is who are your favorite villains from the show, and then we'll get into our favorite episodes.
Okay, so favorite villains. Justin, who do you think is your favorite?
All right, favorite villains. I'm gonna have to say, top of my head, 3: Mr. Freeze, Scarecrow, and Clayface.
Dang, you picked
Scarecrow.
completely different villains than I did.
Yep, I love Mr. Freeze. I love Heart of Ice. I think it's probably one of my favorite episodes. It's just really good. I love
Yeah.
Mr. Freeze's character. Scarecrow is probably my favorite character in the series. The second appearance of Scarecrow in the series is not a very solid episode, but 2 of the other ones for sure are really well done.
Scarecrow got the biggest glow up when they did the redesigns
Yeah.
for the when they redesigned everything for the whatever they called it.
For the Batman, the New Adventures of Batman. and
New
Robin.
Adventures of Batman and Robin. Yeah, like he went from kind of being like jokey looking to like super menacing.
I don't know if you noticed too, like he
That's-
changes in the show from his first appearance as Scarecrow in the first episode he's in from the rest of it, where he's got the more yellow strawy hair.
Mhm.
That changed a little bit, but yeah, I love the Scarecrow. He's a great villain. I love the things he makes Batman have to go through in those episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Clayface, the 2-parter episode of the beginning of Clayface's episodes in the show.
All the 2-parters.
Oh yeah. That
Yeah, all the 2-parters are so well written. Clayface is a really good one. It's probably like the biggest threat, and like how do you fight this villain?
I
Like
know.
watching that 2-part series or that arc.
yeah.
It's like how do you deal with that as Batman? And
I consider
I
Make
appreciate
That one of my favorite episodes, the 2-parter for Clayface, because I just love the villain of Clayface. In the animated version of Clayface, combines 2 different versions of Clayface in the comics into one.
Oh, awesome!
Yeah.
Yeah, and that
2 eras of
That-
Clayface.
Yep.
that last moment too where he's in that trailer and the TVs are going off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's just like one of the best animated one of the best like animated moments of the whole show was when like he's like morphing all that much and just freaking out.
Into his characters.
It
and-
looks
yeah.
so good.
Yeah, that's a great one. I would probably say that Scarecrow is my favorite, but the way Clayface is done in that 2-part episode, that's why I made a list. Obviously, I love Poison Ivy for other reasons, but
Yeah.
Those are good choices. I just went with basic choices, but it's because these are my 3 favorite villains in Batman in general, which would be Riddler, Two-Face, and Joker.
Mm.
Yeah.
gotcha.
I think the Riddler that they did for the cartoon, although I like the Frank Gorshin version of the Riddler more because he's a little more zany, the Riddler for the cartoon he's dark. He's pissed, and you can definitely believe that he would want to kill you. You know?
Yeah. Like he's definitely the best of like the pissed off fired guy
Yep. and
archetype.
he seems like a true genius, not in like the weird zany like Jim Carrey way or the Frank Gorshin way, but like somebody who could actually create these devices to like that could mess you up really
Yeah.
badly. Like he actually seems like he has some brains in his head. And I like that he's a video game designer, that his background is as a video game designer.
That episode is silly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still, it's fun.
And you you said the Joker was on your list too, right?
Joker, obviously, for obvious reasons, because Mark Hamill. And like the Joker is probably Joker and Two-Face are tied for like my top favorite Batman villains, because it really just depends on my mood at the time. And I've went through like the past decade of my life almost like hating Joker because everybody just loves Heath Ledger, and I'm not as big of a fan as everybody else. But every time I watch the animated series and like now reading through the comics again, I'm just reminded how good of a character the Joker is and how good of a foil to Batman he is. And I just love Mark Hamill's portrayal of him.
The thing I really like about the Joker in the animated series is that like at the end of all those episodes where he inevitably usually would catch the Joker,
Yeah.
they're like happy. They're both happy about it. Like this is like what they do. They have
Yeah.
this fun game, even though they're almost dying constantly.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time like Joker trips and falls and Batman saves him from dying just to put him in jail, they kind of have like this quirky little smile moment at the end, even though they've been killing each other this whole time.
Oh, I'll never
Which I
get sick of
appreciate.
like a bloodied Batman dragging a Joker to Arkham Asylum or throwing in the back of a police car. So
It's like Batman's hobby.
yeah.
It's like both of their hobby is just to come up with ways to like
Mhm.
terrorize each other.
And Two-Face, because I've always loved Two-Face, just like the aesthetic, the way he looks, like he's got this monstrous Dr. Jekyll and Hyde half of his face.
Mm-hmm.
But then the animated series takes it to another level for me because it puts him in that black and white suit, the domino looking suit, where in the comics he's always been wearing like pink and plaid. And then they made his skin like this teal blue color and his lips look like red, like he's wearing lipstick. And it makes him just look so much more iconic. I love that design of Two-Face. I'll always love that design of Two-Face more than any other version of Two-Face. And I just like that they really upped the tragic backstory so much. Like they played back and forth between his good side and bad side with the whole big bad Harv thing so well.
Yeah, just the lead up to him becoming Two-Face in the animated series is just so good.
Yeah, like showing his descent into madness in public. It's like, it's embarrassing.
Mhm.
I feel so bad for the guy.
Like at the very first episode, he's Harvey Dent hanging out with Bruce
Mhm.
Wayne, and Gordon's around, and Bullock's around, but
Yep.
he's it takes a while for him to become Two-Face, whereas a lot of the other characters just become Two-Face, or like they become their villain as soon as you see them.
Like
Yeah.
they're already established. You get
Yeah.
to see his slow descent,
Mhm.
and then you get to see those moments where he's like talking in public, and then like the big bad Harv persona comes out, and it's almost like flipping a switch. He doesn't even realize that he's doing it, and all of a sudden he like wakes up and he realizes that he just like beat some people up.
Mhm.
So
And I like how
shows
he's not always bad either. He has the
Yeah.
coin, right? Like,
got moments of
There's
goodness, yeah.
moments that like, oh well, the fates decided it's not. We'll have to kill this dude or whatever.
That's what makes him scarier in a way than the Joker. And like
He's got convictions,
Yeah.
basically.
like I remember reading No Man's Land, I think it was. It might have been the novelization of No Man's Land, where when the prison is broken open and the asylum is broken open and all the villains are running free, the Joker is like afraid. He admits finally to being afraid of Two-Face.
Oh really?
Because Two-Face is so unpredictable, because he literally has two different personalities. He never knows which one he's talking to,
Oh,
whereas the
okay.
Joker is always the
He's-
same.
yeah.
You know? So like if there's any villain in Gotham that the Joker doesn't want to team up with, it's Two-Face. Which
Interesting.
to me says a lot.
I hate giving favorites just because like it changes with
Your mood.
my mood.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna say the one that I appreciated the most my last watch through was Scarface.
Oh, the Scarface.
The Scarface episodes are so fun. You just love how like they made this wooden doll,
Yep.
this unanimated wooden doll who isn't even like haunted or anything like that, scary. Like
I still want to see the ventriloquist done in a movie.
yeah, I would too. I would too. And like the other fun thing about him was that because he's literally a wooden doll, and you have this show where people with guns are shooting their Tommy guns at things, and they don't never get to hit anything.
Yeah.
They finally get to like let loose and show this doll, like animate him dying in like crazy brutal ways.
Yeah.
Like in one of the episodes, he gets like just riddled full of bullets.
hmm
It's so great. And then in another episode, they throw him in a wood chipper. Yeah, I really like it. And then just the dynamic between him and what's the puppet master's name?
The ventriloquist.
Ventriloquist, yeah.
Yeah.
Just the meat guy, and they play off each other. So like, there's a good comedy to it too,
Yeah.
and just the way he's like legitimately scared of him in that one episode where, Batman like sneaks in the apartment, he's talking to him, and he's like, "I can't be alone." Yeah, so funny, so funny.
Yeah. That's such a good villain. It's such an underrated villain too.
Yeah.
And I don't want him to be the main villain of any Batman movie, but I just think it would be hilarious to have a scene like where the ventriloquist gets thrown in jail in a separate cell from Scarface.
Yeah,
like communicating through a wall or something.
yeah,
That'd be cool.
yeah. Like you figure he'd be so easy to do live action too. Like why?
Oh yeah.
I don't think they did him on Gotham. I think they thought of him after the Adam West show.
Yeah.
Shame they don't do Batman shows anymore. Just shows where Batman's not.
Dude, why isn't the ventriloquist popped up in like one of James Gunn's, like if they're gonna do Suicide Squad and James
Yeah, he could have been there.
That's
that would have been hilarious.
acceptable, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
What's your superpower? I don't have one. I have a dozen.
Yeah. Oh, that would have been great.
Yeah. Maybe someday.
Yeah.
James Gunn did say he's doing more DC properties, so maybe we'll get a ventriloquist TV show.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, I think there's a lot of potential with Scarface.
Oh man. All right, you want to get into the 3 episodes?
Yes.
Well, hold on. What did you have? Other two? Did you have two?
I mean, Joker and Two-Face.
Yeah, I
Let's
knew
go
it.
there.
I knew it.
Yeah, let's go there.
Well, before we move on from that, I want to throw a notable mention out to Ventrix. I don't know if you guys remember that episode where he was like the dad. Maybe has the invisible suit and goes to be the invisible friend of his daughter.
Yes.
It's like his mom, the mom of the daughter, has a restraining order on him.
One of the
It's like a really deep adult episode.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
he's trying to change his life around by like, because he was a criminal before he went to jail, and he gets out of jail, wasn't allowed to see his daughter, but he gets his hands on this invisible suit, and he starts stealing money, becomes rich. He's like, look how successful I am. Can I see my daughter?
Yep.
That was kind of like one of those tragic episodes where it's like, yeah, he's kind of a piece of shit, but he's just trying to see his daughter. And I don't know. I thought the writing for that episode was really good.
One of those exclusive to the cartoon villains that's like super, super good that I wish they would include into the main series somehow.
Yeah.
I have another one of those in one of my favorite episodes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we'll get. All right, let's get into it. So who wants to lead this one off?
For favorite episodes?
Yeah.
I can start. That's fine.
All right.
I think probably my favorite is the Robin story arc.
Robin's
The
Reckoning.
Robin's Reckoning.
Robin's Reckoning.
That's on my list too.
Yeah, it's so good. It's everything I like from like the original comic of when he shows up in that story, and then like you take like what we all knew from kids as watching the movie, and love a hate relationship with the movie, sure, but it's my very favorite adaptation of Robin's story and how he acts. And Robin's really not in the series that much because he's out and he's in college, he's going to university, so he pops in here and there, which I like how they explain that too. I like that he's not always around, but he's around enough.
Yeah, it was a very deliberate move.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was great too because it gives them the ability to show Batman on his solo, like doing his little solo outings, but then it also you get to see Batman and Robin working together.
Yeah, and then when he's just the right age to spin off, go Nightwing.
Yep.
And then they could introduce new Robin.
yeah,
Yeah.
it all makes sense. It's done really well. It's deeper than I think it's been done in other elements of Batman. As far as I know, it's only a 2-part episode that shows that whole thing, but it's like they hold a lot to what's canon with around the Batman realm, but do a really good job interpreting that. So
Yeah.
that's one of my favorites. I mean, I could really say any of the 2-parters are really, really good.
Yeah,
Obviously the first 2-parter with Catwoman is really good, and it shows like how Bruce Wayne loves Selena Kyle just as much as Batman loves Catwoman, and that's really interesting dynamic. As far as a one-off episode, I'd say Nothing to Fear. The first appearance of Scarecrow is my favorite.
that's a good one.
That's a good one. It's all over the place. They're fighting on top of the blimp.
Yeah.
Batman's like going through his, he's got the fear dust in him, right? And he's like trying, and all his fears come from his dad being mad at him, or not, or disapproving of him.
Where like failure.
Yeah, and he's got to like push through that, and then he's like, afraid of falling to his death in the heights. And there's like a giant skeleton, like an imaginary skeleton that was like haunting him as he's hanging off this like Zeppelin.
They got to go like crazy with it since it's like anytime an animator has like or a cartoon, you have a character like going through like a psychedelic trip or having a nightmare. It's just an excuse for the animators to go wild with it. So you always out on it.
It was so good. I love the whole skeleton in the sky thing, and these people. There was one of the henchmen, like he gets some of the gas, and like he just jumps out of the Zeppelin and like luckily lands on a tree and doesn't die. Like come on,
that would totally kill you.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I really like that episode a lot. I think that obviously I like Scarecrow a lot, so that's one of my favorites. There's a couple notable mentions on there. Obviously the first episode of Poison Ivy as Poison Ivy is really good. And I mean,
they got the one episode they did with her later where like she reformed and then she got married and started a family was really like, that's a good like horror episode.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never say that Poison Ivy is one of my favorites, but I do like her a lot, and her episodes are cool. I like how she's super vindictive and wants to do things, but also just is like a psychotic, like cares about these plants in a certain way.
Yeah, too much. Yeah.
And then Perchance to Dream. You guys remember that one?
Perchance, is that the one with the robot?
It's the one with where you don't remember. It isn't. It's a dream sequence the whole time, and he's living Bruce Wayne as like perfect Bruce Wayne life, where he's like just gonna marry Selena Kyle. And his parents are alive.
It's inspired by a Superman comic book by Alan Moore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, called For the Man Who Had Everything, where he has a plant that attaches to him, and when the plant attaches to him and attaches to his nervous system, he's living this dream life where he's still back on Krypton and his entire family is alive.
Oh,
and he's married and has a kid.
Yeah, it's very similar to that. Like, it's not revealed to the very end where he finally realizes it's a dream and breaks out of it in this like crazy lightning battle in like a lighthouse or something, or on top of a bell tower.
Dr. Hugo Strange. Yeah.
It was
Professor Hugo
Strange. A Mad Hatter episode.
It was Mad Hatter?
Yeah. So he's like, what are you doing? I was going to give you the perfect life you always wanted. Why can't you just take it? And like, no, I got to be Batman. But yeah, that one's one of my favorites. I mean,
that's an excellent one.
It's kind of a weird one-off one, but where he's just kind of figuring out if he's alive or dead or what's going on, because he remembers being Batman, but Batman is not him in this dream. So
I always love episodes like that because they show the hero's conviction, and I feel the same way about that Superman one too, because they're like so strong in their conviction of being who they are that they're able to overcome this brainwashing that gives them everything that they could ever possibly want, because it's more important that they are Batman or Superman and like out there like helping people than it is that their life is the way that they've always wanted it to be.
I never realized it was a remake of For the Man Who Has Everything. That makes a lot of sense.
I love it. It's like a secret nod to the fact that he really does love Selena Kyle so much, because like at that point when that episode aired, Like, he hasn't had a lot of interactions with Selena Kyle, but, like, it just keeps getting brought up by Alfred a lot. Like, he's, like, taking jabs at him about him liking Selena Kyle, and obviously in his dream, he's gonna marry her.
It's always not. It's always great. Even in every version of Alfred, he always wants.
He always wants Bruce to get married.
Yeah.
I didn't look this up because I didn't think about it till now, but in JLU, when the Huntress is introduced, is that Huntress the daughter of that Batman and that Catwoman? Because the Huntress has always been the daughter of Batman and Catwoman until they reinvented her as her own character.
I don't know. That's too far in the future for that.
I guess.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me go next because Robin's Reckoning is actually on my list too.
Okay, that's why I picked the 4th bonus, like a backup episode, just in case.
Yeah, Robin's Reckoning is on my list. I'm not sure if it's like my number 1 favorite episodes, but it is damn good.
It's really good.
I just love the way that they readapt the origin and they keep like the darker elements in it. And then I also like how, because they do this with one of the reboots of the origin too, how Batman lets Robin kind of go off a little bit. Like he almost gives him the opportunity to take revenge and kill Tony Zuko, but he just knows deep down that he'll never like cross that line. Just like him.
Yeah, he kind of gives him that last moment, like, are you really gonna do this? Like the cops are showing up and he's about to murder him.
Right, but he doesn't like step in and intervene. He's just sort of like, who do you want to be?
Yeah.
I think also in that episode, that's the one where Robin does the Akira motorcycle slide.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Super good. Whenever I rewatch the show, I usually start by rewatching that episode because it sets the tone for the show for me. Next on my list is Heart of Steel parts 1 and 2, which is the robots.
Yes.
And also like I kind of have to include in there Silicon Soul.
Yeah.
Which is like 3 episodes later.
It's a sequel.
It ties in. It's a sequel to those episodes because those episodes, like they could not have been done in the comic books. I feel like it had to be something that they did in the animated series. Those episodes are the most like the Max Fleischer cartoons, you know, because they deal with like weird electricity and robotic the components and like this evil robot. So visually and storyline wise, they're a lot like those Max Fleischer cartoons, but also like it feels like Terminator, like they created Skynet in the Batman universe, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And like, don't tell me that robot is not sexy as hell with her skin tight, China outfit and her little beauty mole on her.
Yeah.
She's super cool. And then I love in the end, like when she gets killed by the elevator or by like I guess it's an elevator, but she gets crushed by something really heavy, just like in Terminator, just like in Child's Play.
It's another one of those moments where, because it's not a human, they can like kill them off.
Yeah.
There's a way.
But it feels really, really disturbing when it happens.
Yeah.
And like just seeing like half their face ripped off. Obviously it's Terminator, but when you're seeing that as a little kid, if you've never seen Terminator before, that's pretty awesome.
That's one I haven't rewatched in a long time, and I remember watching it when I was a kid, and yeah, I'm gonna watch that one again too, for sure.
It definitely has shades of like Isaac Asimov's Robots books, like his Robots trilogies, where it's sort of having you be like, what does it mean to be alive? Can robots be like people? What's the difference between a robot and an android and a cyborg? And then also it feels very much like Invasion of the Body Snatchers, like where they're replacing people with robot duplicates and like the robots are slowly starting to take over the world.
You should play Snatcher, Hideo Kojima's point and click adventure game.
I know about it, but I haven't played it.
It's so good. It's basically
like Blade Runner.
It's like Blade Runner with Terminator.
Yeah.
Nice.
And that episode basically.
That's all my favorite anime movies.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say about this episode and Silicon Soul, the guy who plays, I think his name is William. He's the creator of Hardak and Robots, the Skynet in these episodes. He's played by the actor who played Sebastian in Blade Runner, who's the creator of all the replicants. So it's a deep cut reference to Blade Runner.
See,
That's awesome.
That's the kind of stuff I was telling you about, like that they're missing in Young Justice. Is like since they know all these actors or whatever, they go for these deep cuts.
Yeah, where if you know it's like an amazing thing, and
Yeah.
that doesn't have to be spoon fed to you.
His character's even designed to look like his character from Blade Runner, which is really cool.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my last episode, I debated putting another 2-parter in here. I almost put Two-Face Part 1 and 2 on here 'cause I just love that episode so much. I put Legends of the Dark Knight because that's the episode that, like, when I was in high school when I was watching the show, I was like, yeah, no, this episode speaks specifically to me and why I love Batman, because that episode's also an adaptation of a Batman comic book story where it's a group of kids and they're like in a warehouse and they're talking about how they've seen Batman and who Batman is, and it goes into like separate stories about the Batman that they met. And like in the comic book, it just sort of has like, oh, like the scary Batman and the happy Batman and whatnot. But in the cartoon in this episode, they take it to another level and they actually have like different like story arcs, like famous writer artist adaptations of Batman being portrayed as the versions of Batman that these kids see. So like seeing like the Dick Sprang Batman specifically with the Dick Sprang Joker like fighting in that museum full of instruments was super cool. But then in the end, when they had the Frank Miller version of Batman come out and it like recreated that scene from The Dark Knight Returns, it blew my mind.
Yeah, that episode was great.
Like when I actually got a chance to meet Bruce Timm in person at Comic-Con, when he actually used to meet fans and would draw sketches for $10, I had him draw me the Frank Miller version of Batman from that episode.
I think I've seen that sketch.
Yeah, I still have a photocopy of it. I don't have the original anymore because I had to part with it because, you know, I needed the money. But man, I could never part with that copy of that sketch I have. I used to have it framed on my wall because it's just so cool.
Yeah, that episode was great. And
That's awesome.
like, it's still even nice to look at, even though they made like they adapted the Dark Knight Returns in the two-part movie.
I still go back to that episode. And I love the score too. Like when the Frank Miller Batman comes out, like the heavy like synth music in the background.
It almost makes you disappointed when they go back to like the normal animation style at the end.
Yeah,
even though it's still like the animated series, it looks great.
I just want a really long TV special that's like 2 hours where they just go through all these iterations of Batman through time.
They do a very similar episode in Batman: The Brave and the Bold.
Yeah,
like their take on it.
I saw those.
Yeah, they have it with Scooby Doo, and then they have the Bat manga.
Mm-hmm. Don't they even have like Batmite in there?
Yeah, Batman. Basically, the framing device is Batmite's talking to you, like the audience.
Yeah,
he's going meta textual about it, like talking about how Batman's been interpreted throughout like the decades.
Yeah,
and then he brings in like the versions.
Yeah, it's super cool. It's always really exciting to see different versions of Batman.
Like,
in
they
one
they call
episode.
that episode "Legends of the Dark Might."
Yep, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah, I just rewatched that like maybe like 2 or 3 months ago.
Yeah, great episode.
Yeah. All right, what about you?
All right, so my top 3. So for one of them, so again, like I said, I don't really do favorites, so I'm just doing like the ones I like made a big impression on me, which I guess is a favorite. But
your current top 3,
but
these are your top 3 of all time.
I guess these are my current top 3. As I like when I took on this project, so to speak, I'm like, what episodes do I like come to my mind? And this one I put in because I really like one of the things I really liked about Batman the Animated Series was that not every episode was specifically about a villain or a rogues gallery. You know, it was a more adult show, so like it didn't really talk down to the audience. So this one doesn't even feature any of the rogues. I mean, it features mobsters. So I guess when they're not doing rogues, they usually do default to the mob.
Yeah,
but it's never too late. It's the episode where there's an aging mob boss. His name was Arnold Stromwell.
Oh yes, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and basically he's having a turf war with Rupert Thorne, and basically he's losing. So he's gonna make a deal with Rupert Thorne, and then Rupert Thorne tries to kill him, but at the same time he thinks his son is like Rupert Thorne kidnapped his son, and it seems like the logical thing, but then like Batman like kind of takes him like under his wing, so to speak, and it's almost like Batman's trying to reform him rather than it humanizes Batman more than wanting to just beat up the bad guys.
Yeah,
he's showing that like, okay, hey, this isn't working. Your drug empire is affecting you more than you think, and then you got like the other like little almost subplot with his brother, who's now a priest, even like having his priest trying to reform his brother. It's a very humanizing episode. So that one came to my mind. So I put that one in my top 3.
Yeah, it's definitely a very adult-oriented episode.
Yeah,
of this crazy comic book villain.
Yeah,
character.
I think that's an episode. If when I saw it as a kid, I don't even remember watching it as a kid. So I know it's like one that like I probably wouldn't have liked as a kid.
Yeah.
Watching it now, I'm like, wow, this is really good.
Mhm.
Yeah,
so I appreciated it like a lot more when I became older.
Yeah, it's one of those season 1 episodes that
Yeah.
really sets the tone of the show.
Yeah.
As Batman it's not always just he's solving crime. He's not just fighting villains.
right.
Yeah. So the next one I did was The Man Who Killed Batman.
Which one was that?
So it's the episode where through a crazy series of events, this meek guy is on a rooftop with Batman, and there's an explosion, and it appears that the guy kills Batman through like total accident, and he becomes like the talk of the town. So like he's the man who killed Batman, and then at one point, so he gets thrown into jail, and like the people in the jail are like, "This guy killed Batman! Holy crap!" And he's just like this little like meek guy. He's wearing glasses and he's nerdy.
Yeah, he's almost like the ventriloquist. He's
Yeah.
pathetic.
And he gets bailed out by a lawyer randomly, and it ends up being Harley. She takes him to Joker, and Joker's like pissed off that
Yeah.
this guy is the guy who killed
Oh, I
Batman.
remember this one from when I was a kid.
Yeah,
I haven't got there yet, rewatching, but I
Yeah.
do remember it now.
He's like he's talking the episode begins with him talking to Rupert Thorne. He's explaining the story
Mhm.
because Rupert Thorne's like, "You killed Batman," and he's like, "Well," and he's like explaining the situation. And turns out like Batman, last minute survived and got away, but he basically like took the fact that everyone thinks he's dead and this guy killed him to his advantage so he could investigate in secret.
Mhm.
It's really good. There's the best scene in the whole episode is where they put him in they want to do Joker's doing a funeral for Batman. So they take a coffin and they're dropping it into a vat of acid, but since there's no body, and Joker's pissed off at the guy, they put him in there and they lower it. And then Harley is playing Amazing Grace on a kazoo, and Joker's crying. It's hilarious. It's great. It's so good. So that would be my second one, I would say.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yep. And then so we'll go in my top one. I would say this one is definitely my favorite, like easily.
No matter what, even if the rest of your list changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beware the Gray Ghost.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
We were talking about that one earlier.
Yeah. This one definitely my favorite. It's very meta in the way that it's about Batman, like his big inspiration. And I mean, in the comics, it's usually like Zorro or the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
But in this version of it, it's a guy named the Gray Ghost. He was a, TV show vigilante character, and Bruce Wayne watched him as a kid, and it would eventually become his inspiration for Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And the Gray Ghost was the character, and the actor was voiced by Adam West.
Right.
So it works on both levels.
Yeah, you have Batman idolizing Batman.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the people making the episode were, inspired by like they grew up watching Adam West,
Mhm.
and now they're making Batman.
Mm-hmm.
And now watching it like 30 years or so after this episode comes out, like now I'm the adult watching, this show I grew up as a kid. So it's just like this generational like thing.
Yeah, it's very deep. It's very meta. It
Yeah.
breaks the fourth wall a little bit. Not in your face, but it's there.
Yeah.
It's a really good. There's a lot of interesting things going on with just like why that episode exists,
Mhm.
and the fact that it's just like this kid that collects stuff is the bad guy.
Yeah.
It's such like it doesn't even matter compared to what the episode's about.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Adam West pulls in this amazing performance as Simon Trent / the Gray Ghost. Like he gets to put in that humanized element that was missing from like his Batman.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like just as somebody looking back, and it's also kind of autobiographical because I know he had like a tough time getting roles because he was typecast as Batman.
Yeah.
So it works on that level.
I really love that episode
Yeah.
too.
And now, but we're also watching it, and to us, I mean, Adam was, that was like 30 years prior to when, we were born and all that, or 20, 30-ish,
Yeah.
But, our version of Adam West to us would have been Kevin Conroy.
Right. He would
Yeah.
have the definitive.
Yeah. So, like, yeah, he's basically our version of Simon Trent.
Yeah. I love that episode. There's so many good things in that episode.
Yeah.
Like one of my favorite parts of that episode is seeing, because they do this in Fright Night, where the main character in Fright Night, Charlie, he idolizes Vincent, the vampire slayer, who's a character on TV. To the
Mhm.
point where he almost thinks he's a real vampire slayer.
Yeah.
And so then when something happens in his life and he needs help, he goes and gets Vincent, the vampire slayer,
Mhm.
who then is like, I'm not actually a vampire slayer. I just play one on TV. But then he becomes a vampire slayer
Yeah.
while helping Charlie. Like the Gray Ghost actually gets to be a
Yeah,
crime fighter.
he helps him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, in a weird way, it's like wish fulfillment, and also like his life comes full circle and he gets to be the character he's always been.
Yeah.
And
He does the same thing. He like denies trying to, he's just like, I was just an actor. I was
Yeah.
actually the Gray Ghost.
Yeah.
And then later on in the episode, he like embraces it. He puts the Gray Ghost costume back on
Yeah.
to like actually take down the villain is great.
Batman takes him into the Batcave and shows him all around, and it's he's like, "Oh, this is just like my lair in the show."
Yeah.
You know, it shows the influence, and
I love that.
then it like kickstarts his career. I don't know if I don't remember if it was a Bruce Wayne element that like helps him put all this stuff back out on DVD. Or
I think it's hard to tell because they go to the video shop and the guy says the negatives got all destroyed, they burned up in fire.
yeah,
But I think it's implied that maybe Simon Trent somewhere had the his own set of negatives.
yeah, I think it did.
Yeah, even though he like sold all his stuff years ago, maybe at some point he found, I don't know. They're not clear on it, but I think he was able to bring in the negatives, and that kickstarted his career again because they were able to restore them and
resell them, and
put 'em on
everyone could
TV.
watch it.
Yeah.
And at the
Also-
very end, he talks about how like he kind of lets it through that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and kind of gives him a little nod from the conversation about how he looked up to him and stuff when he watched it with his dad. And
Yeah, that also weirdly kind of is like real life too, where like, I know the Grey Ghost isn't Batman necessarily, but whenever you get a new adaptation of Batman that gets everybody really excited to see this new version, it's always a prime opportunity to re-release or release for the first time the other like past iterations of Batman.
Yeah.
Like we got Batman the Animated Series on DVD because Batman Begins was coming out.
Mhm.
You know, like we get Batman the 66 TV series on Blu-ray because we have people excited for other new Batman stuff coming out.
When Dark Knight came out, they re-released the Adam West Batman movie on Blu-ray,
Yeah.
and they gave it this cover that's like black and red to make it look dark and hotter. But even though it's just like this bright and colorful Adam West show, it's silly.
Yeah, I love when they do that stuff.
You know,
It's great. I'm always excited to be able to get shows or like different adaptations of the character on Blu-ray or DVD that didn't exist before. But it's just funny how it always coincides with this new dark gritty version of it.
yeah, they were having him sign like I think cassette tapes, but like they had this blue like trim to him. So I'm like, is he signing Blu-ray?
that's what I thought when I rewatched it.
Yeah.
He just re-released this out on Blu-ray in '92. This is insane.
Yeah.
So that's my top 3.
Well, there you have it. So we had one overlap, which is Robin's Reckoning. So I guess that's a pretty good episode.
It's a two-parter. It's really well done.
Yeah.
You really get to see, Robin, have to really go through it for a minute and, choose, like you said, choose who he wants to be.
Yeah. It's really hard to pick a top 3 in the show because there's so many episodes and there's so many good episodes. Man, like I could probably made a list of like top 10, top 20.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, easily. But yeah, we'd be here all day. And I think this episode ran really long anyway. So
Probably.
yeah.
I mean, I guess like my final statements of the show would just be like, Batman the Animated Series is always Batman to me, and everything else has to somehow fit along with that or be, like it's the top. It's how maybe it's just because of my age and like, I was watching Batman a lot when I was a kid, but it's more than that. I think it's just really well done. It fits right in the middle of where these other radical versions of Batman exist.
Yeah.
And it's just, the style is great. The voice acting is great. The villains are amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great show. It's, I think it was rated on multiple different avenues, the second best animated series of all time, second to The Simpsons. So
I would say
see it up there. Yeah.
right up there.
it's interesting.
It's something, even though they're trying like this new show, which hopefully it's going to be good, like it's definitely not going to be able to match the original animated series. You just can't catch that lightning in a bottle.
For sure. I would say if you want to get into Batman and the only thing you know about Batman is Christian Bale and the Nolan movies, or like the Batman, like if you're a new Batman fan trying to get into it, this is the best way to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Just watch the entire Batman animated series,
It's not that long.
and it'll pull all these elements from all these Batman comics from the very beginning in, and then you'll know which characters you're interested in and what aspects of Batman you like, and then you can pursue older comics that include those villains or those different story elements that you like.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap it up here. That was excellent. Thank you for joining us, Justin.
No, thanks for having me. I love what you guys are doing. I love the show. I listen to it all the time.
Thank you.
I'm glad you got to bring me in to talk about one of my favorite shows of all time. So
Cool. Yeah, if you ever have any ideas for any other episodes, or if any of our listeners have any ideas for any bonus bad episodes, hit us up on Twitter and let us know.
Exactly. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what your favorite episodes of the show are. And I think that's going to wrap. Thank you for listening.
See you guys later.
Goodbye.